Hello, this is April with Red and April Off Grid. We are building our home and homestead here in the Arizona desert. So as of April 16th, 2022, we will have officially lived out here for 1 year. We got our trailer, our RV in here just before we made the final move, about the weekend before. And we got our solar hooked up a couple of days after. It's just been quite the adventure. We've really enjoyed living out here. We didn't really know exactly what to expect, but it's been a lot of fun. We've got to build a lot of interesting things. We wasted a whole bunch of time making Aircrete, but at least we're getting a garden wall out of it. We've just started plastering the garden wall, so we'll have some more videos about that. We thought about using it to make our house and decided that would not be a good idea, so we'll do a video about that soon. And just some more thoughts about Aircrete in general, but excited to get the garden all fenced in. Over here is our well house and laundry room. So our laundry room is a little ways from the house, but off-grid does not mean you have to hand wash your clothes. We really enjoy having our washing machine in here, and my daughter has a bunch of her clothes in here. We also have space in here to hang some other stuff. And we have our well and pressure tanks in here on one side and the washer and dryer on the other. Here is our power setup out here. We needed power coming from the solar to the well house to run the pump. We ran our water to the shipping container and also to the house. We marked it with stepping stones and gravel. The shade of our RV has been really awesome. Makes the temperatures not near as extreme. Thought maybe in the winter it wouldn't be ideal, but it still really helped just kind of insulate in between the shipping containers and just kept the RV a little more consistent temperature. So our solar is doing awesome. We only had it shut down one time. It was right after Christmas. We had company, and then we had 2 or 3 days of cloudy weather, and it was about 10 o'clock at night when we realized that the power had gone out, but it wasn't a big deal. The next morning, after the sun came up and things started charging, Red got it up and going again, and we just haven't had any other issues. We seem to have plenty of power. We do have another set of batteries that Red plans to install at some point, but for now, a lot of sunny days and solar has been doing great. It's been a great system and has easily met all of our needs out here. So Red didn't know anything about solar when we purchased the property. We weren't particularly looking for an off-grid property. He had to research and figure out how to design our system. We have 16 panels that add up to 6,400 watts. We have a 6,000 watt inverter. The majority of our components were ordered on Alibaba, and the total cost was $6,000, not including the tax rebate. So I haven't officially showed it, but we are completely dried in. We got dried in last weekend, just before our daughter's wedding. So we slept out there one night. We had company in our RV. My brother and his family have been staying there. So it's been super nice having it dried in. Next, I'm going to show a slideshow of some of the things we have done our first year off grid, and Red is going to tell you more about it. Thank you for joining us in our off-grid adventures. It's been quite the year.
So this is 1 year ago, April 2021. We had just sold our house and we're getting ready to move out on the land. Of course, we purchased the land 6 or 8 months prior and have been working on it, trying to get it ready to move out there. And the day's finally here. We've sold our place and we're loading up the final load to get ready to move out to our land permanently. Everything was packed and filled to the brim. We went and signed papers and then headed out.
The first thing we need to do today is get this all organized better so we can start piling everything in here. Disaster area in here right now.
With a little bit of organizing, all of our household goods fit in one shipping container with room to spare. The first order of business was to finish up our solar system and get power on the property. We had a generator, but really needed to get the solar up as soon as possible. I just had a few panels left that needed to be connected, so here I am mounting those and making those final connections. Most of the components I had already installed inside up on the wall and ran some of the wiring, so I just needed to make a few more connections and then start the power up process. Here I am making a few final connections on the batteries, and here I am kind of starting the equipment, looking it over, seeing if there's any faults or any issues. There were a few little things that I had to work through, but within, I believe, 3 days of getting to the property, we had the solar up and running. At this point, we had water in the well house and power in the solar control room, but I needed to get it to various points on the property. And so the next thing was to get a trencher and dig trenches so that I could run water line to the well house, to the RV, to our new home location, and also to some spigots that we can use for gardening, etc.
So he has the water line brought down here to our house site. Comes all the way down from the well, goes along the edge of the shipping containers. We're going to see if it works, and then Red's going to go around and check all the connections and see if any of them are leaking. There it is.
I used the same trenches to run my electric line. Fortunately, the solar control room is located centrally between the well house and the home site location, so it was kind of equidistant in either direction, so it worked out pretty good. So here I am running cable to the home site. I've already ran it over to the well house, and I should be able to power the shipping container as well that I'm using for a workshop. There were also lots of small projects that need to be done. We ended up adding some gutters to the roof of the shipping containers to collect that water in the future possibly, insulating some spigots, planting a garden, and helping our 2 grown children with their projects as well. This is a completely off-grid property with no public utilities to tie into, so each family had to have their own separate utilities, so I ended up helping my kids build their solar systems as well, so I got lots of experience helping to build solar systems. We ended up with 3 separate solar systems that are all pretty much identical out here on the property. We really enjoyed working with family out here and helping them with the projects they have at their places as well. There's been so many little things that we've done, I'd actually forgotten about most of them. Here I am reinforcing the barn roof, just making sure that it's super strong. And then we also got some mulch at one point, a huge load, and April brought in some colored rock to help out with the path there. There's been so many little things that we've done. We've also made a lot of improvements to the shipping containers to make them much more usable. This is my workshop that I added a window and a door to for easy access, and that has been super worth it. Some beautiful plants here, and here we are helping my daughter and son-in-law with their solar system. They built a big nice solar system up there, same components, just different racking system. But it was fun working with them and helping them put it all together. It produces a very satisfying clunk.
It does, very satisfying.
Good learning experience for all of us, and so far these systems are working great for everybody. By early summer, we were ready to get serious about building our future home. We rented a backhoe for a month, and I started to learn how to use it. I started by clearing the garden out just as a practice, cleared that space and kind of leveled some spots on the land. And then we got started building the septic system. We did it ourselves. That was a permitted and inspected process. So we did have to pass inspection on that. That's the only thing that had to be inspected on our property. So that was a fun experience. I've actually done 1 or 2 septics before, and so it wasn't too bad. The backhoe was the perfect tool for that. Spent a few weeks working on the septic system. I was also building up the pad for the foundation of our home, and once I got that built up and compacted, then I started to cut in the footer. Around midsummer, the monsoon season started and the rain started to come, so we had to work around that. Fortunately, the ground soaks up the moisture pretty quickly here, so it wasn't too much of an issue working around that. We finished up the septic system and we're backfilling that and then starting to cut out the footer for the foundation. And you can see me here kind of working on the forms for this. This was the first footer that I've done, and it was interesting doing it in the ground in place. Definitely a huge learning experience for us, and spent quite a bit of time and effort on this. It turned out pretty well, I think, but wow, what a project. One of the last things I did before we returned the backhoe was to dig out a pond and swale, and it's good I did because we had a great monsoon season that year, and it filled it up multiple times. It was really cool to have the pond on the property. It's a feature of the property that we really enjoy. The monsoon just greened everything up, and there's so many flowers and so much vegetation. It was a really cool experience. It totally transformed the landscape. Kind of cool things down. We really enjoyed the monsoon season, even though the rains can be pretty intense at times. Also around midsummer, we decided that we needed a little break, so we took about 6 weeks off and we traveled to see family, spent a few weeks seeing family, and then we traveled to see some national parks and just kind of went and saw the country a little bit. Really enjoyed that little break. When we got back from our travels, the first order of business was to build a little outhouse. So here I am building that. We got that built and then started on the second half of the footer. So the first footer section I did kind of 2 sides, and now we're doing the other 2 sides. So formed that up and got it poured with the help of some family, and then removed those forms and started on the interior of the foundation. With the footer in place, that ushered in an era of mechanical projects inside the foundation. We had to run all the plumbing, underground in the foundation, the drain system, and of course we have a black water and a gray water system, so kind of 2 separate wastewater systems. And then we had to run the water and run conduit for the electrical lines and get all that mechanical stuff in place and in the pad before we could even think about, pouring the concrete floor. Finally completed all the mechanical stuff and got it all kind of in the ground and bedded, and we got a load of rock to get ready to bury it. We decided at this time we needed to move into our Aircrete stuff, so we ordered some equipment and started our experimentation process with this Aircrete. We decided that a garden wall would be an excellent thing to build. It's something we needed anyway and would give us a great opportunity to experience and experiment with Aircrete. And so this began what ended up being like a 9-week process of experimenting and doing small Aircrete batches, making test batches and performing destructive tests on those batches. We really dived in and really kind of gave it our all to learn this product, to learn this material, and to try to make it work for us in the best way possible. So we made tons of test batches, different mixes, different formulas, different additives, did different tests. And you can see here we're doing some weight testing on it to see, how much strength it has as far as tensile strength. And we did some drop testing to kind of test compaction and how it responded to impact. And in the meantime, we're also working on the foundation, putting in that rock gravel layer. And so we just kind of went back and forth between finishing up the foundation and experimenting with Aircrete. So we were still kind of working on the foundation and working on the house even while we were doing this Aircrete thing. It seems the more tests we did, the more questions we had with the Aircrete. So we just kept going with new experiments, and in the meantime kept working on the foundation. We put in some interior footers to pour the interior Aircrete walls on top of. And then we finished filling in the gravel layer, had to order some more sand at one point, and we decided to start pouring a concrete floor. We only wanted half of the floor to be concrete, and we decided to do it ourselves in small batches, so that was just a whole lot of work and kind of hand mixing all of those batches. We did ourselves and really fairly pleased with how it turned out, but that was quite a lot of work. During this time, we were struggling with Aircrete, and the prices of lumber had dropped, and so we ended up moving away from Aircrete and deciding to build a more conventional home. So we made a couple of big orders of lumber. Ended up being a real opportune time as the prices of lumber had kind of dropped to a low point at that time. We ended up going up later, and we had these beams left over that we had ordered for our Aircrete home build, and we decided to go ahead and use those in our roofs, and so ended up integrating these beams into the design of the house. Saved a lot of money, and we really liked the way they looked and the way they functioned. We built 2 25-foot pieces back to back to make a strong, sturdy beam, and then used some of the smaller beam, the 6-inch beam, to make those 4-foot extensions for our front shade overhang. Overall, the decision to move away from Aircrete and build a more conventional house has been a really good decision for us. It allowed us to stay busy and keep working on the place throughout the winter. And we just really enjoy working with wood and the more conventional materials. We're really enjoying the building process. Overall, it's been an incredible first year. It's been extremely busy, but extremely satisfying. Looking back, it's hard to believe all that we've been able to accomplish through just kind of putting our head down and working every day. We also got just a huge head start on the place before we even moved here by working on it. From the time we bought it until the time we moved out in April of last year, we'd actually accomplished a lot just by making several trips and camping out here for weeks at a time. And so by the time we actually moved out here in April, we had a lot done. We had the well in place. We already had this shipping container barn built. We had the solar system mostly built. And so when we moved out, we were ready to move right into our RV and kind of continue this construction process. We were able to help our children get themselves established with their own power and utilities and help them a little bit with some of their projects on their places, and then made a great deal of progress on the house. We decided to try to eliminate as much thermal bridging as possible by creating a foam envelope all around the house by putting the foam on the roof and on the sides, and then to use metal siding all around the house just to create a low maintenance and fire resistant surface. We're looking at a house now that is already dried in. We're ready to start working on interior features of the home, and who knows, maybe we'll be moved in by Christmas.